Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this short video. We thought we share some interesting news with you. My name is Thomas Meyer. I'm the General Manager for Research at IDC, and I'm joined here by Phil Carter. And all of you will know him as our Chief Analyst in Europe. Phil, what have you and the team been up to?
Thanks, Tom. It's great to be with you again, and with the broader market as well. Thrilled to be able to provide a bit of an update. We've been busy, Tom, as you can imagine. It's been a busy time. Been having a lot of fun thinking about what will shape the next normal, as we've been talking about it, so that road to recovery. And as we were looking at that and talking with you and the broader team, we realized that actually there's so much that's changed in the last 6 months or so that we might want to take a step back and think about the big change that we've seen and try and understand the impact of those changes.
No, it's a great point, and obviously we're really looking forward to those big things that you're going to talk about in a second. But I'm hoping that everyone here would have seen the road to recovery, the journey to the next normal. And Phil, you and the team obviously presented a lot around this and what it means. Now, there are some that look at this as a big mountain to climb. Some look at this as a canyon that they need to emerge from. But whatever happens, the next normal is going to be very different, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're clearly, I would say, just at the halfway mark of this journey in a way. You know, a lot of people assume that it would be finished in a few months. And clearly that's not the case. We need to build this resilience individually, but also into the business and the broader society. And as we do that, I think we really have to take stock of where we are, what we need to do, and how do we drive this journey moving forward so that we really take advantage of the potential opportunities in the future.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, certainly. And maybe one thing to point out to everyone here as well, that what we're going to talk about and why we've looked at the things that are going to shape our journey in 2020 and already have shaped our journey in 2020, but will also continue to do so in 2021, is really the feedback that we've been getting from you. So what are the next big things? What are the really top issues that we should be looking out for? So Phil, why don't you just tell us a little bit about how we're thinking about this at the moment?
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Let's jump into it. And you know, I think what we're trying to do is build a set of predictions for 2021 and beyond, as we think about building a more sustainable European economy, leveraging technology, I suppose. So, and as we went into that process, we realized, okay, let's try and group these 5 big game changes in 2020 that have shaped 2020 so far, because that feeds into the future as well. That kind of feeds into our predictions. So we went through this with the team recently, got some really good feedback, and I thought it'd be a good opportunity just to take the broader market through some of our ideas, get some feedback. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And obviously what we're looking forward to as well is getting some feedback. So Let us know what we're missing, you know, let us know what you feel strongly about. Because I think one of the big changes, and I think you're going to touch on it as well, is I think the level of humanity that we need to show in this era is certainly ever increasing. And that's one interesting tangent, for example. But everyone out there, let us know how you feel about this. Are the hashtags the right ones?
Absolutely. And I think we're building this community on an ongoing basis, and it is critical to see the human side of everything that we've gone through over the last 6 months. But the first game changer that I want to zone in on is this notion of the tech tsunami. People have called it different things, tech avalanche, tech intensity. I think it's shining through that we've moved from a situation where digital transformation was a can-do to where it is now a must-do for the broader C-suite. And as you can see here, the CEOs across Europe are realizing that this is the time. It's not a dress rehearsal for digital. It's the time to actually execute on it and deliver the outcomes associated with it. And what we've seen off the back of that is, for the first time ever, this lack of correlation between digital spend, more specifically digital technology spend, as compared to GDP trends, to the extent that actually spend on digital transformation is increasing in 2020 and 2021 in opposite of fashion to the GDP declines that we're seeing across the region. And I think that's also shining through, Tom, in a lot of the discussions that we've been having with CIOs, heads of technology, because their budget seems to be going up.
No, absolutely. And as we discussed before as well, when we look at the journey to the next normal or the road to recovery, tech is everywhere. It is now increasingly hailed also as the factor that's enabling this transformation that companies are going through in all kinds of different ways. So I think, tech tsunami, the digital must do, I think that's absolutely right.
Yeah, and I think, so we've seen CEOs also, as we've talked about, Tom, see a different value from tech. So not just financial value, but also ecosystem value, right, societal value linked to that notion of social impact of organizations, and then understanding that it's only through the use of technology that you can deliver that type of value. I don't know, Tom, it used to be, the mantra was, if you were to be successful in life, you had to wake up early, work hard, and then find oil. Now it's, wake up early, work hard, and find tech, because the NASDAQ, you look at the NASDAQ performance in terms of value over the last 6 to 9 months, outperformed the Dow Jones Industrial significantly, more than 35% higher. And all the value is heading towards tech. And that's very clear in terms of the broader economy, which is good from the tech industry perspective, but it forces all of us to take on the responsibility of getting this right and building a sustainable future for the broader economy.
No, absolutely. And we've talked about it before that, if tech is such an important pillar of enablement, it is also an important pillar that we need to take responsibility for and take ownership of. And I think as we, I guess, create the next path, and we're seeing this divergence between what's going on, if you want, somewhat in the real world and what's happening on the tech side, it'll be an interesting journey of bringing those two sides back together again at some point as well.
Absolutely, and I think that this is also the potential for technology to change our lives and to change society has been picked up on by the politicians, the political leaders. So this is the second hashtag, which is these big tech battles for power are linked to that technology. So and it's getting political. So whether you look at the clampdown on TikTok, if you look at the state-sponsored cyber attacks in Australia, the big tech CEOs being hauled in front of the Senate to answer questions about monopoly, about how they're using data in different ways and fashions, and that links to a personal responsibility that we all have to think about in terms of where we share data, how we share data, and then that links into all the apps that are being sprung up around COVID and contact tracing and how we potentially share data for the greater good versus concerns about our own data privacy, and the extent to which we want to share that data with these governments that are potentially using it in ways that we're not expecting or not aware of. And it raises some fundamental moral questions around the importance of technology, but then the role of technology for good, but potentially for not so good.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. You already mentioned that we've been looking, obviously, last year in the FutureScape, we were already looking at the reframing of business value and how companies are going to be looked at. You just mentioned it again before as well in terms of the importance of tech and, for example, ecosystems being a major part, as well as societal and sustainable value. And, you do wonder whether other areas are going to become part of this as well in this big battleground now that's coming to the political stage, where there are other topics like diversity potentially, as well as trust, that are playing a big role. And another hashtag you could add here as well is fake news, right? That's been everywhere in the media as well. So I think the responsibility, particularly of those tech leaders right at the top, is going to increase, but also our own responsibility in how we deal with it.
Exactly. And if you look at that new movie on Netflix, I don't know if you've watched it, the Social Dilemma. It points to how do politicians leverage this to go after, getting votes versus actually for the greater good. And it kind of links into the third hashtag, Tom, which is the change individually that all of us are undertaking in terms of our life. So what we call life changes at a work level. So I really like this cartoon. I can't remember, do I work at home or do I live at work? I think we're all facing that blurred line between home and work, given the changes in our working patterns, working from home, then trying to get back into the office for some people in some countries, but now potentially going back home because of the potential lockdowns. So, it's a big question as to what flexi work will look like in the next 12 months. Then you've got your home situation, which is, so play, let's call it that. And I can tell you, I've come across a number of people, and I don't know if, Tom, if you've got all these three options in terms of your subscription to entertainment channels in the Maya household.
I'm a bit of a laggard, I have to admit. So we've got one, and we're resisting to go further. But I think pressure, particularly from the kids part of the family, might just drive us into to just extend that a little bit.
Yeah, well, you hear about the next show, and it's on only one platform, and then there's a lot of pressure to pick up that platform. So, yeah, but it points to the end of the cinema. Is it coming to play? Disney Plus just launched their latest movie directly to the Disney Channel, Disney Plus platform, foregoing the normal process through the cinemas, and it worked pretty well. So that's a big question mark, but it's not just entertainment, right? It's the setup at home around sports and health, and a lot of people getting into meditation and yoga, and not you yet, Tom, I don't think, but potentially, but people concerned, a lot more concerned about their general health. And it's a lot of, but it's all tech everywhere, right? So a lot of these things are enabled by tech. But then also our buying habits. So we're buying green, that's for sure. I mean, there's a bigger question mark around the products that you buy and helping to build the sustainable society for Europe. But it's not just that, a lot more elderly people buying online, being forced to do that, and that'll change the way buying habits evolve over time. And then the fact that we're buying a lot of gadgets, like tech gadgets. You and I have had, buying webcams. Can you imagine how much those are shooting up in terms of demand, where other things are falling off the cliff? So a lot of those are changing in terms of our buying habits. And it also points to the fact that you potentially reconstitute the notion of a city in the context of how we work, how we play, and how we buy. Do you need these big cities? Are they going to reduce in size depending on this model over the next 12 months? So lots of change at a personal level, which brings it that human element, Tom. I think that's shining through.
Absolutely. And I think one thing that really strikes me about what you've just presented is it really is an acceleration that we're living through now in terms of the tech and the barriers having gone down incredibly, but also the investment, obviously, as you pointed out as well, in terms of what does our new office look like? That hybrid workplace between potentially physical office, but then also the home office as well, and the kind of stuff we need for work, for playing, but also now the conscious choices we make around how we potentially spend our money and how we purchase going forward.
Yeah, it's that notion of tech tsunami, but at a personal level, and it's how it's changing all of our different lifestyle choices. But then you've got the social thing, Tom. I mean, I think it's become clear that these social issues around gender, around race, around sustainability and societal impact, wealth, these things are risen in terms of awareness, but also action. People are really looking to take action off the back of this. People have seen, for example, in terms of the carbon emissions, how it's dropped off in the first half of 2020, and realized actually, this is probably the way forward. If we are going to save the planet, this is it's forcing us to reset, and therefore it is going to be easier to stay on that course moving forward, being forced into that reset type of mode. But it's amazing how everyone is picking up on the importance of these issues and trying to integrate them not only into their personal lives, into their family lives, but also into the business context as well, right, Tom?
No, I would agree, and also very closely links to one of the other hashtags. I mean, it's getting very political,
Yeah.
but it's getting political, as you rightly point out as well, to the point that it's very personal. And so all these points are really intertwined. Your lifestyle, what's happening in terms of taxonomy, and the social issues as well. And I think this is where, hopefully everyone will see as well that these things are linked to a large degree, not just what's going on in terms of the economy and health, etc., but also what's happening, in fact, on the tech side in particular.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a strong connection point. But let's move on, Tom. The last hashtag so far that we've picked up on for 2020 in terms of the game changes is Spendanomics. So it's actually amazing to see how fiscal policy has changed so dramatically in the last 12 months, and particularly in the response to the current crisis. We've had this austerity mode in play in a lot of countries in Europe, and that being pushed into the broader region as a mantra. And now you have the new head of the IMF talking about keep the receipts but spend, and it's really the spending mentality. And it's becoming clear that the only way that we are going to get through this is with government stimulus, and the 750 billion stimulus that has been put in place across Europe for the recovery plan is unprecedented, unbelievable in a lot of ways in terms of what we've had to do compared to what has happened in the past in terms of this joint approach. But it does raise big questions around the longer term. We're borrowing from the future. There's a generational question here, because a lot of these things that we're doing right now need to set us up for the future, but the future is going to be paying the debts that we are incurring at the moment. So future generations are very aware of that. And the point is that the focus for these investments need to go in the right areas. And a lot of those need to, and governments need to pick up on the responsibility associated with the money that in terms of they spend, in terms of where that spend is going. And technology is a big part of that. Technology needs to underpin a lot of these spending capabilities. You see the link between technology investments and then green impact or societal impact or sustainability, but it's even broader than that. And I think there's a requirement for technology that politicians pick up on these other hashtags that we focus on, because it's the bigger picture. It's not just about how that money is being channeled in just keeping the economy flowing forward. And we've also got to be conscious about the bubbles that it potentially creates. I mean, and there are zombie industries potentially that are developing. And the question is, how long do you sustain those industries, and how quickly can we transition jobs from one industry to another, or another element of one's part of an industry to another, without creating too many disruptions in terms of the economy. So difficult questions, but we're on a different track, Tom, in terms of austerity, from austerity to Spendanomics.
Yeah, it's also, I guess, a point where you pointed out some examples that there are definitely threat factors, if you want, or challenges that are upcoming. But with that also comes that opportunity that we need to grab in terms of, okay, what do we do around education, for example? If we assume, we have this hybrid workplace, so we think about that. And we already talked about, what's happening to office space maybe in future, but also what's happening, for example, in the education sector. And can we use some of this maybe to even out some of the inequalities, so that leads back to the social issues perhaps that we're seeing overall. But it needs to happen really at all levels of society, in terms of the politics, of the tech leaders, the way we purchase and live as individuals. So I think it's a really good story. One question though, Phil, that I still have for you.
Okay, hit me, Tom.
Yeah, so because I think we could have this discussion anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And this would probably be very valid. Now, but maybe give 3 or 4 points where, what makes Europe different, or how can we differentiate in Europe when we think about these things? We started talking a little bit around, for example, trust and ethics already. Are there maybe 3 or 4 things that we can whet the appetite here, perhaps, of the listeners to say, look out for our FutureScape coming up later, and here are some things that we might be thinking about?
Yeah, I think that's what we always strive to do, Tom, in terms of our European predictions, is to kind of bring that specific regional element, country specific in certain cases, but more broad. Okay, what does this mean for Europe more specifically? And often Europe is described as the conscience of the world. I think there's a lot of focus on doing the right thing at the individual level, but also at a societal level. Leading the way in terms of data privacy with GDPR, and now increasingly with the sustainability story and reducing carbon emissions. So I think, what we're going to be focusing on as we look to the future, based on what we described today, is number one, what resilience looks like in a European context, but more importantly, how do we reignite the future of Europe across the economy, given the fact that it's going to be much more digital in nature, focusing on not just financial value, but this ecosystem value, the societal impact value. And I think there's two key things, Tom, linked to that, which we have an opportunity to really get right in terms of the conscience, global conscience. One is trust, and you alluded to that. And I think that the European perception of trust is not just about security or privacy. It's this broader sense of the currency of ecosystem business models of the future. And then the other one is diversity, but it's equal opportunity and understanding the importance of diversity at a gender, at a race, across all levels, but increasingly cognitive levels, just making sure that you're bringing the right skills, the right people into different projects, different initiatives to deliver the greater good. And I think that is Europe's differentiator, is to be able to do that, leverage the technology that's out there, to do this in a pragmatic way so that we can sustainably develop our economy for the longer term.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And maybe just to add to that one, it's great, moving diversity forward. It's for the greater good, absolutely. But I guess, we can also say, if you actually do it truly, it also hits the bottom line. So it's not just a good thing to do, but it's also the clever thing to do. It's a smart thing.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's great. So, wow.
So those are the 5 big game changers, Tom. As we said, we look forward to the feedback. We're shaping this for our predictions for 2021 and beyond. Hopefully you like them, Tom, as well.
Very much so. I've been part of some of the discussions that we've had, and I think we've got an absolutely tremendous discussion going on over the next couple of months or so, until we come to the FutureScape that will be airing around mid-December, and we'll let you know the exact date very soon. I think we're going to have fun, and hopefully you're going to enjoy how you can think about these issues, but also how you can think about growth, acceleration, and working with your customers in ecosystems, and very directly supporting each other in terms of the co-innovation and co-creation that you can leverage to, I'm going to quote you again, to flatten the curve here and get to the next normal, maybe just a little bit quicker.
Yeah, and I think the key thing here, Tom, is that we are looking to help where we can, provide inputs, provide ideas, and improve ourselves, improve the content, and improve the research, because it's a critical moment in history, and I think that we have an important role to play. We've got to deliver. So look forward to that. And Tom, really appreciate your support on this.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, we might be living through another period that's going to shape certainly not just the near future, but the longer term future going forward. So Phil, thank you very much for being with us today, and looking forward to the next 2 months until we get to the FutureScape. And hopefully we can wow everyone who's listening and viewing the webcast at that point. Thank you very much for listening to us.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, everyone. Take care.